The reason that I think this is going to be so incredible is because I have a lot of guests. I am more of the I'm a passionate person. I am all emotion. I don't have a lot of knowledge. I
Hmm.
got to be honest with you. Like I don't have a lot of scientific reasoning for the way I feel, and all this. And a lot of
Yeah.
people like that because it motivates them. But then the second that I get these things about, well, what's going on in your brain is X and X and X, I can't relate to that. And
Hmm.
so when you did your video on this channel, I was like, whoa, you're a smart guy. Like, I mean, you actually know the reasons behind this. Apparently you have a master's in or getting a master's in clinical psychology. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah. So I did my undergraduate in psychology and sociology combined, so equivalent of two majors in your side. And then I went on to clinical psychology, which I've just about rounded off now.
so you're close to finishing that,
Yeah, I mean everything's pretty much finished. I'm just waiting for the last like marks and everything to be put
right?
together and all that.
What do you want to do with that after you get that, that seal of you finished the courses? you know,
Uh, I mean, straight off, I'm saying I've done 5.5 years of university at this point, learning. So I'm taking a
nice.
little bit of a break from
Good for you.
having being like everything being like tested and graded, and especially timescales. Like some of it's really interesting, and I could go way over. Some of it was a case of if I wasn't interested in it, then I did enough of the reading, but most of them I wrote in about maybe a couple of days or so. Just
Well,
because I'm like, I have to get the motivation to do it in the first place. And then once I do it, it's like, okay, I do it all at once, and then I don't have to worry about it after, you know?
is there a slight chance that you might have ADHD? Just based on what
I
you
mean, I'm
just
on the
said, it
yeah,
was
no, I'm on the autistic spectrum anyways. My dad was as well.
gotcha.
Me and him are basically clones of each other in that regard. Um, but no, it's one that I'm looking into getting assessed at some point.
Right.
Like from a self-diagnosis point, as in from a like interacting with people in a clinical setting, it is highly likely. And it is one that in some cases is very useful, and some literally I was at work yesterday, no, Friday,
Right.
and my one of my like colleagues, so fellow kitchen leader, said that she said that as the area manager was watching everything, because we had cameras and stuff from work,
Right.
and she was around for stock take. It was a case of I'd be the job which could take me about 20 minutes took me about an hour and a half because I was stopping to do about three other jobs at the same time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it in the right, as long as I manage it well enough, then it works. But there are a lot of times where like I've spent like a good 45 minutes cleaning the toilet, and then I've got, at work, and then I've realized I've only got about 2 hours to, cash up and restock everything.
Right. Right. It's that waiting for the moment, I guess. For me, at least, it's my ADHD is so drilled in on does it matter at this moment?
Hmm.
And if it doesn't matter at this exact moment, I can't do it. Is there a reason that you have learned, excuse me, that you've learned throughout your studies that could help me understand why it has to be this crisis moment, like for me to to do it well?
I mean, from what I know, it's the kind of the crossover between the reward system and the kind of like pressure system, if that's the right term.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
basically, like the reward, the amount of like dopamine you get, the amount of reward hit, um, it doesn't directly correlate to how urgent a task is.
Got it.
Um, so if you've got like the best phrase I've seen about it is an ibnu, which is important but not urgent. So
Right.
the task is important and will provide the rewards, but because it's not urgent, it's not one that you have to jump right into. So there are a lot more urgent tasks at any one time than the important one. So
Yeah.
it's always a case of going for the highest priority thing, which usually is the most urgent, but at the same time, it means that the stuff behind it then becomes urgent through virtue of you leaving it so long.
Wow. I actually haven't heard it explained that way. I try to explain to my wife exactly what you just said. I just couldn't put it into words, so she'll listen to this and love it. But that's interesting because it is. I do go to the most important thing every single day, but then all those other things get lost in translation, and then I never return to them. And then I'm criticized for why I couldn't get that one thing done, like the dishes or whatever it is, the mundane
Yeah,
things.
I mean, I was
And
ordering stock for the store, and obviously, I knew that I had a. It started at 12. I
right,
knew that I had to submit it by 2. So when I was doing it between 12 and 1, it was like, okay, I know that this stuff doesn't need to be done straight away. So I'm going to do the couple of things which are more likely to be like more urgent at the time. So
fascinating.
then once I'd done that, I could get back to the at the time most urgent task, which was getting the ordering done.
That's
Literally, I was like, I'd stop to like clean a table or check on a selection for food and stuff. And then obviously I'd be going to the other side of the shop to carry on with the ordering.
that is
So it was a
fat.
lot of back and forth.
That's fascinating. So sorry, I was just getting free therapy there for a little bit. We're gonna go back to you, okay? 'Cause, normally I ask people what is their ADHD journey, but I feel like I kind of want to just talk about your knowledge of mental health and your education and how that all played out into what you want to do.
Hmm.
So I guess my first question would be, when did you start to care so much about this?
I think definitely the before college, before I went to college, which equivalent of freshman sophomore year or so, so
Right,
17, 18 years old.
right,
I was I mean I'm still, don't get me wrong, I'm still interested in science and like biology, chemistry, physics,
right.
because the autistic part of me was very much this is a really interesting topic,
Yeah,
and I can get as much information about it as I can. Um, but when I got to college, I met a lot of like I didn't have many friends at school. I had about
hmm.
one when I in my first year, and then another couple who tagged along after that.
Right. Tagged
So
along.
we only had about four. There were only about four of us,
Okay.
and the other three of them go off to like football matches and those weird kind of like lads holidays thing. But I haven't really talked to them in a while. But
Right.
beside the point. But yeah, so I started in college meeting a lot of people, and then it was a case of I either completely understand someone or I haven't got the foggiest how on earth they work. And it was
Right.
the point, it was the becoming interested in, okay, how do these people I don't know about work? And why do I know the people I know so well?
100%. Wow. And then you decided to pursue this into like,
Not
eh,
straight away, admittedly,
okay.
but at the time it was more of a kind of like a this is something I'm interested in. Like
Yeah.
my best mate at the time, who I don't really talk to too much at the moment, or at all, because like stuff during COVID went a bit like
Horrible for
yeah,
everyone. Yeah. That's
basic
yeah.
basically the old adage was that he treated me better than he treated most of his girlfriends. Um,
Got it.
One, he had quite a few at the same time, or at least a couple at the same time without them knowing about it, which was awkward whenever I met one or two of them. But
Right.
also it was a case of like over COVID, he needs a place to stay, so I had him over, and he was with us for a couple of months.
Good for you.
Um,
Good for you. That's
and
awesome that you help him. Like,
when
that's
you're
great.
like between being in a confined space, but also the fact that like he had an awful lot of problems in terms of not just like mental health problems, but also like drug problems and stuff.
Got it.
Um, and it was one of those where the kind of fact that we kept we had certain here's how here's what we do kind of thing. And there were cases where he kind of broke that kind of contract, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
But as I was saying at the time, when I first met him, it was a case of he really had a way with people.
Yeah.
I learned probably too much about how to get round people and how to get them,
Yep.
Um, but he made a great rival in terms of
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna learn this, I'm gonna read this, we're gonna test each other. He once read the entire Quran back to back for 6 months to
Huh.
have an argument with a Christian preacher about the similarities between the Quran and the Bible. And he
What?
literally read, he got to the point where he could quote scripture just to
Unbelievable.
have an argument with this guy. Or less argument, more theologically heated discussion.
Right. I,
But it's it was a great service to kind of
wow.
okay, this is the kind of if you apply yourself and if you learn the right things, it's very easy to know a lot, It's
Yeah.
easy to gain a lot of knowledge if you know where you're looking and you have the kind of motivation to look for it.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredibly fascinating. So I'm from the southeast of the United States, and I went to a Southern Baptist church upbringing. So is there any chance you could get that friend to maybe write me something so I could present this to
I
the
mean,
pastor?
we haven't talked in a couple of years, so
I got
probably,
okay,
but
probably not. But it is just cool to hear you say motivation versus the will to learn more. And for me, I got to be honest, I am 1000% motivation because that's what feels so good to me. I work in sports. I love motivation. I love all this. I also love the fact that I do want to learn things. It's just so fucking hard
mm,
for me to even remember a single thing about anything I've read. So I resort to, I love you. You're fucking awesome. I'll handle the motivation. You handle the academics, and we'll be all good.
mm,
And
yeah.
that. But I'd love to be able to learn more. And here I go talking about myself again because I'm a selfish asshole, obviously. But no, you took someone in because you cared about that person. And to me, I think we're really empathetic people. Like people with neurodivergence are empathetic
Mm,
towards others. You
yeah.
took the steps to learn why, which is to me extremely impressive because I just don't know. I want to know why. I just can't absorb it.
I mean, initially the first reason I started learning all this stuff was a partially selfish, okay, this person has really got people figured out a bit better than I do.
Right.
It was okay, what can we do to level the playing field? It wasn't just in social skills and stuff.
Yeah.
I trained martial arts, sword fighting, stuff
Holy
like that
shit,
with
that's
him.
awesome. Sorry. That's
Um,
that's very
and
cool. But
it was.
that's very cool.
We made some very interesting decisions in our because where we used to live, there were old military barracks, decommissioned sites.
Okay, so you're
And
a straight up badass, basically. It's
we used to go and
essentially.
we used to go into a couple of them just to be here's a practice area where no one's going to disturb us.
Right.
Like I went to the local park during lockdown to have a fight with this pair of lightsabers that I just bought.
Oh,
Um,
hell yes.
and
Hell
it
yes.
took about 2 minutes before some like local lads like came over and were like, "Oh, let's have a go," and it's like they were just bugging us. Um, the good thing that got us out of that is that my my old mate didn't know how to take someone lightly, so he I passed him my lightsaber. He chucked it to the other guy. The other guy started swinging around a bit. He immediately like dropped into a proper like defensive stance, and then was like, "You ready?" So the guy starts like trying to play around,
Oh,
and he just dives in. Like if he were using those moves with like some of the harder weapons,
right.
it probably would have cracked the guy's skull.
Lobau Spark has started a fundraising effort for Crisis Text Line. We have a goal of $19 per episode, as $19 supports just one person in their time of absolute crisis with their mental health. If you would like to donate to our fundraiser titled Lauren's Infinity, the link is listed in the episode's description. Lauren was my wife's best friend and loved by all who came into contact with her.
Um,
Okay.
it was literally he took full movements, full speed. Um, and look, about a minute later, the guys started leaving us alone. Um, so because of that, we ended up going to the nearby castle that's been abandoned for a couple of years
Okay.
to train in there. But it was a case of you do something like that, like either like throwing people around or hitting them with sticks, for lack of a better phrase,
Right.
and people around like, oh yeah, I want to give a go at that, or let's go and try and mess them up and stuff.
Yeah, I would probably just watch it and sit in the corner and be like, okay, I'll have another pint, please, or whatever it is. I'm not fucking with these people. But it,
Yeah, no, it's
it,
like but yeah, like not just like the psychology part, but
yeah,
the martial arts and learning like various sword fighting styles and stuff. Um it was a case of I'm very much better motivated when I've got someone to kind of work off in that regard.
awesome.
So like it
Yes.
it's definitely much easier to, like when I was at uni, was a lot easier to work on an assignment when I've got other people working with me, like
Right.
even if they're not doing the same thing. Um, but it's basically an idea called body doubling, which is
That is
the
exactly what I was about to ask you. Is do
yeah,
you like the
yeah.
body doubling thing? And
Yeah,
that's
I find that it does work. I find that it
okay.
does work for me in some cases.
Awesome.
There's a
Eh,
fine line between, is this person too distracting, or is the am I feeling sufficiently motivated by
Right.
knowing that they're watching, almost like feeling
Yeah.
how much I'm doing.
Yeah. And I got to be honest, like body doubling has never worked for me because eh, that's why this is so much fucking fun. Sorry, I get very animated about this stuff because I love it. I love the fact that people can talk from around the world now. Like I love this. Because
Mm,
when you explained it like that, it was okay, that's what works for you. For me, it's I can't do it because for some reason I don't want an audience until I'm proud of my result. And
yeah,
so like having someone watch me work, I can't do it, but you can. And that doesn't mean
yeah.
that
I
your
mean,
way is
it's
wrong or my way
definitely
is wrong. It just means that this is what works for each other.
mm, yeah. I mean, I
It-
think it works easiest for me when the other person is working. So even if they're not like watching what I'm doing or reading what I'm doing, they're
right.
still doing something which I should be doing. So I'm
That's
like, okay, this
interesting.
person's doing it with me. If this person's doing it as well, then I kind of need to match that, you know.
Interesting. So it's a competition thing, maybe? Like if this
More
person's
a more a like extra motivation. Like
got it.
if
Got it.
I'm if
Okay.
I'm in a state where, or if I'm in a like place where I don't have too much concentration, and the person opposite me is working, I can't really distract them, then the only other option is to concentrate myself. So
Wow.
I'm kind of cheat myself into
Yeah.
getting some work done, because it's a very fine line between they're here to help me and I don't want to like I don't want to like disrupt them from what they're doing.
Wow.
So to not disrupt them, I end up doing what they want, what we kind of wanted me to do in the first place.
Incredible. You're combining respect for someone else and getting your own work done at the same time. Maybe I'll try it. I'll try it. I'll try it. I'm not going to say
Hmm.
that, but
It
yeah.
it really depends on the person. Like some people, it's almost impossible to do it with.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
some people it's a lot easier. Like if you're going into it with the same kind of like uh, you want this out of this and I want this out of it, then it's a lot easier to keep on the same side of what you're doing.
Agreed. Agreed.
But if you're sitting with someone who wants to help you work, but then gets really interested in talking about something that's completely unrelated, it's like you can get this.
Yeah. You
Like,
just solved it for me. You just solved why I can't do it. It's because I'm always wanting to talk about other things. But that's so can we go back briefly to like I guess I want to ask you, what is your goal with when you finish the clinical psychology degree, the master's, and you've got a bunch of degrees? What is at the core of that? Like, is it a certain place you want to work? Is there a reason? Is it just fascinating? Is it like what is the story behind it? Because you're obviously brilliant and you're obviously really cool too. Like I was after I watched that video, I'm like, I'm a really hyperactive person and I appear conceited a lot of the times. However, I really want to talk to this fucking guy. Like he's awesome. So,
I see why you and Adam would get along.
yeah,
He's exactly like that.
I know,
But
but
much. But yeah.
I love it. But yeah. So aside from all that, at the end of the day, the mental health. You know a lot about this,
Hmm.
obviously, and but for what do you want to take it from here?
Um, in in the end, or at least like as my next kind of like here's where I'm aiming for.
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking specifically like queer mental health, so LGBT individuals,
Okay.
because like from both a psychology and sociology perspective, like there's the um pre like disposition to certain mental health conditions like depression, anxiety, so on and so
Right.
forth. But the amount of actual like activation of those like mental health conditions, when you factor in the social environment that they interact with, both their like personal, professional, work, like
Right.
school environment, like the environment makes a huge difference,
Yeah.
more so with LGBT individuals, to their general state of well-being. And it's like it's not a case of like it's not a case of these people have like things which make them a lot more susceptible to like mental health conditions. It's the fact that the like kind of environment towards them is an
Absolutely.
awful lot more hostile than the average environment, which is why conditions such as anxiety and depression present much higher,
Wow.
because compared to the
Yep.
general population who have about a similar like level of predisposition, the hostility of the environment around them is a lot higher than the
Yep.
average environment that you'd find like the like test subjects in like weird tests. Have you heard the term weird before?
I have heard the term weird. Uh,
No, in context of like studies.
um, not again. I'm not very studied. I will admit, but I've never seen
It,
the word weird written in anything that I've read about mental health.
it basically stands for white, educated, industrialized, cannot remember what the R is again. Oh, and D for democratic. So basically, like a giant proportion of studies, like about 85% or so,
Wow.
are done in like areas in which you would find this kind of demographic, specifically America as well. Like a lot of research in America done with American students specifically because they're one of the easiest pools to access. Like
Right.
half the time you can offer them some money, half the time you can offer them some extra credit,
Yeah.
and suddenly you've got hundreds of people signing up. But in terms of studies on areas, say like China, India, Middle East, it's an awful lot harder to gain any data from there,
Right.
which means that most studies that are published with data that is attributed to a like white educated industrial, I can't remember the R, it's really annoying, democratic like country. So in a case of,
Shall we look it up for fun?
yeah, sure.
Let's do it. I'm always interested in what Google will bring up for me versus what Google will bring up in
Yeah, I mean, I know I've searched it up before because I've used it in a couple essays.
weird meaning. Or wait, no, that's what's called an acronym. There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, I got something in education right. So, which is funny because industrialized, rich, and democratic.
Oh, rich, that was the word.
There we
Okay.
go. I'm not going to say I got a
That was
faster,
less entertaining than I thought it would be. I feel like
never been told that before, but yeah, let's
I
go.
feel like I just skipped off rich because, you think of industrialized and you kind of think of rich as well.
Right.
But yeah, the idea that a lot of, but in terms of specifically mental health for LGBT people,
Yeah.
it is quite useful because the societies that you get a lot of the data from are the ones in which LGBT people are also generally most confident actually talking about it.
Right.
Like of the Eastern countries, the like Middle East especially,
Yeah.
you've got 72 countries alone where being gay is illegal. So to participate in a study,
72 countries
yeah,
illegalize
72
it,
countries. Yeah.
but
72 countries,
that doesn't make
it,
sense.
it's illegal to be gay. In I believe about 14 of them, the death penalty still applies.
Oh, that's great. That's really nice.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Really?
Yeah.
The death penalty?
Yeah, in about roughly about 14 of those 72 countries.
Okay. That ridiculousness aside, never knew that, by the way. But you go on the environment. I'm gonna bring that up again. It is environment with mental health, and that is like my bedrock principle. It is the environment that you are in and surrounded by that can dictate or not how well you are going to do, how well you can cope with certain things, how well you can. The environment dictates a lot. Like for me,
Yeah.
I can't live in a city. I just can't because it's too many people and I just go crazy. So I live in the country. That has made all the difference in my life is living in the middle of nowhere because I get to choose friends on my terms when I go see them, when I have them over, all this. Before, if I have neighbors, it's a pressure thing. It's like, well, what are you doing? Well, maybe I'm working or I don't really want to hang out. Well, I see your car in the driveway. So why don't you want to hang out? And then my brain goes to the worst possible scenario.
Yeah.
So it's perfect for me to be out here, but everyone's different. It is time once again to recognize the biggest supporters of this podcast. Lobau Spark is proudly supported by Leo Guinan, Kirk Hofstrom, Casey Elliott, Sarah Delano, Justin Allingham, Blushing Crafter, Jamie Young, and Beth Jones. It is now also supported by 13 anonymous supporters. And I understand that because I can curse and all that kind of shit. I get it. If you want to support this podcast anonymously, you are free to do so. It's totally fine. But this does not exist without you.
and I love you.
But what you harp on is environment. I think you said that word a lot. That makes or breaks a lot of shit, in my opinion. That's in my opinion. But
Yeah, I mean, that's where the sociology side of it came from. Like doing psychology and sociology at the same time, sometimes through virtue of them being the same like school of thought, they'd
Right.
be covering the same things at the same time. So I'd be getting the kind of micro version in the like brain processes, the interactions of like chemicals and the symptoms, certain mental illnesses. And then the societal side, on the sociology side, I'd be looking at the like levels of deprivation, the areas of the country where even in the UK there are certain like stretches that are called food deserts where there is no fresh local produce within 10 miles of these areas, which means their only options are to bring stuff in, which obviously means that they're paying more to get even the basic stuff, which
Right.
means that the level of spare income within the economy makes the areas more deprived by that reason kind of link. That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And when
I
I go
went a bit
back,
quick there.
no, this is why I can go back through it and I can slow it down so I can understand. That's what I do. That's but also you're a really fucking cool guy, man. Like I love this. Like I would talk to you a lot, actually. You're very personable, and that's a great thing. I think at the end of the day is to combine what your education is with the human aspect. You've got
Yeah, the
both.
personal bit is the stuff that I've been working on for longer.
Well, you've been
That,
working
that's
really
the
hard on it because you're good at it. So I've spoken with a decent amount of people with autism, and it to me it's I respect so much like a person that is trying to help a community that gets shit on, which is at its core what I think maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, what you might be doing with the and I'm sorry, I'm so bad with letters. LBGD. I can't do it. I
close
just
enough. Yeah,
I
no,
and it's
no,
honestly, it's
specific.
not that I don't care. It's that I can't remember the letters in order.
No,
That's
that's why even like in my studies, I use queer as a shorthand because it's much
okay.
simpler.
Queer. There we go. Perfect.
Um,
Thank you
but
for
no,
allowing me to do that. But
it is a case that like I'm a member of that community myself.
good.
Me and my both me and my husband went to uni. And funnily enough, Adam knows both of us.
Nice.
In very different contexts.
Right.
Because he was on the student council, my husband that is, along with Adam, who seemed to have been there forever. Like every year you'd go, he was there, and it's like, yeah, I can tell that he's basically like if he's not in charge here, everyone else thinks he's in charge, you know.
Oh my God, the amount of times I've gotten that statement. That's what you're right. He and I are very similar. He it's just he's got more of the education backing it. I'm like, hey, by the way, up, I love you. I love you up. And he won't, entertain that. And I'm like, I can tell a friend I love him. Fuck you, man. Let's go. Like that's but but yeah, it's this good lord. I'm gonna jump right into the last question because I love meeting people like you, honestly, um, that have obviously worked really hard on personal skills, but I don't even call it personal skills. I call it just being yourself, which you obviously seem to be. You admit the shortcomings and what you're good at. So I'm going to leap into what are you most proud of? And here's the
Oh,
thing with this, though, is it cannot be a significant other. It cannot be having a child or anything like that. It has to be a characteristic within you that you are most proud of.
oh gosh, that is
It's a
that is
very
a
hard
lovely
question. It's a very
That's
hard
a
question.
lovely question.
Well, it
Yeah,
is.
no,
At the end of the day, we just went through it.
yeah, no, I think um, one of the thing, and this is a bit of a preface to what I think, or what I
Right.
would say one of my answers is, um, I am almost entirely allergic to choices. Um,
Can you
like
say that one more time? I'm sorry. I actually didn't hear
I
that.
said, I said I'm almost entirely allergic to choices.
Okay.
Like if I have to choose between something, I always try and figure out the way of not choosing between it. Like obviously I'm into like quite quite a few different types of people. And me and my husband are polyamorous, so like I'm quite into people at the same time.
Right.
So I try and avoid making choices where at all possible. Um,
Nice.
and I think if I had to
I,
go with one answer to do with the strength thing, it's the fact that I don't like choosing, like by not choosing things, it means that I can try and cover everything. Like rather than learning about one thing, I can learn about the furthest thing from it that's still connected. So I kind of branch out that way.
cycles itself back. Uh,
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, maybe not phrasing it as well as I'd like to, but what characteristic within you,
Okay.
within you, are you the most proud of yourself for? This is, I know it's so hard for anyone to answer. And I don't mean to put you on the spot. And honestly, if you don't want this in there, I'll edit it the fuck out and it's no big shit.
No.
But it's an important thing to me because I don't feel like people that are as driven as you, that work as hard as you or me or whoever else with mental health quote disorders ever answers this question. It's fun sometimes to say, what is your best characteristic?
Okay, different answer to that, I guess. Similar in terms of
Right.
idea is probably creativity.
Beautiful.
Like I
Beautiful.
try and
I
keep
love that.
I try and like there are things like I don't know if this is related. It probably is, but one of my favorite people in fitness actually in like YouTube fitness that kind of area is a guy called the Pioneer. His name's also Adam from Surrey.
Jeez. Your brain's got to be
Um,
going crazy right now with all
I
the
know.
atoms.
But Adam, the Pioneer's primary philosophy is in superfunctional training, which is the idea of training the body to be capable of doing absolutely anything it needs to. So not just training for a certain function or training for a certain aesthetic, but to be able to do absolutely everything it can. Um, and that kind of like screams creativity to me in that same sense,
That's so
in
awesome.
the capacity to have that many answers to the same questions means that it's a lot easier to choose the right one at the time, or perhaps choose the one that people don't think people wouldn't have thought of.
What
You
a
know?
brilliant fucking answer that was. Okay. That was awesome. My creativity. I can shift through all these things and get to the right answer. That's a massive quality to have. Fuck yeah, Andy. Hell yes. Sorry, I don't mean to get animated again, but I
No, no,
do because it's me. It's me. Like that's um so at the end of this, would you like me to send you this first so you can approve it before it goes on YouTube, or do you not care about?
no, it's fine. Like I've
Yeah,
like I've said with like I've said with Adam's ones, like if I didn't want anything to go out, I wouldn't have said it in the first place.
it's a good,
You
yeah, it's a
know?
good point. I just, for me, I was so cringy about, doing this at first. It was because my wife's best friend took her own life 3 years ago, and I was like, she really thought that no one gave a fuck about her. And so my thing is, I may not know the science, I may not know the education I'm trying to learn, but I will for damn sure be there for you any day of the week. And that's my not power. Can't say it a power, of course, but that's my best quality characteristic is that if I like you, I will go to the ends of the world for you. And if I think you're even remotely cool, I will talk to you every day because it's fun. And maybe that interaction can give someone else that's struggling to make friends or struggling to do whatever a sense of pride in themselves. And then the domino effect happens. We don't care enough about people in this fucking world. And that bothers me a lot. Like, that's why I always ask, what characteristic within you are you most proud of? Because then we can discuss it. I'll pinpoint it and be like, if you ever get down on yourself, fucking watch this shit. You know, and I think that's a level that I like to get to is when I'm sad and I'm depressed, which is a decent amount of time because of I have mental health issues. I can turn to one of my episodes and really get pumped up about myself and what I'm trying to do. But most people are so cringy about saying, like, I'm good at this. It's always about the other person, the other person, the other person. Yeah, my thing is by caring about other people, it actually helps you also in a really weird way. And but not for the conceited way. It's like I am putting myself first by putting other people first. I'm right because what works for me is this.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most like valuable things certainly is that people don't show like, I mean, one to like the idea of like masculinity as well in a sense, because this is specifically from my own perspective, like masculine
Right.
perspective.
Absolutely.
The idea that a lot of people don't show enough like enthusiasm or affection, especially affection. Like, obviously, I used to tell my best friend that I loved him. He had kissed me a few times, admittedly while very drunk, but it was like a it's like this isn't something to be ashamed of, and it's not like I'm actually hitting on him. It's like this is just we're showing affection. Like,
and that's so weird to me to hear that. Like, so I mean, I'm married for 8 years. I'm straight as can be or whatever, but I tell my friends, I love you, whatever their name is. Give them a hug, kiss them on the cheek. And then a lot of them that are kind of like a little bit standoffish by it are like, love you too. And I go, no, it's fine for me to say I love you. It is fine for me to say I love you, but I don't want to fuck you. Like, that's like, is that like, I mean, that's to me, you can love someone and not be romantically involved with them. Like, that's
okay, pick a best man.
God.
He goes out, he meets one guy, like I think unrelated to his soon-to-be wife, trying to get them to meet, and then they become really close.
Right.
Like they sleep in the same bed sometimes.
Right.
Like he's spending all the time over there.
Nothing wrong with this.
Exactly. The middle point that kind of illustrates the point is that his fiance then starts getting a little bit jealous of the fact that the other guy is spending so much time. It's like, oh yeah, like you can invite me with your boyfriend and stuff.
See,
and
that's the whole problem.
like in the end, obviously they have the wedding, and then he turns up because she invited him, and it's like it was wrong of me to like try and do that because having best friends is the point. But the idea was that the primary conflict there, probably the only conflict, came from the fact that as soon as he started having a strong friendship with this other guy, his wife then thought that she wasn't meeting his needs enough.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We've got to get away from that because I'm very, very lucky in the fact that I've had probably, so I had in my wedding, I had 15, I called them best men because I couldn't choose a best man. Like I didn't want the whole groomsman thing. I was like, all right, 15 best
Yeah.
men, here we go. If you helped me in my life and you love me and you can say I love you, you're in. I was saying that basically like friendship is my number one thing.
Mm.
And there can be friendship with sex and there can be friendship without sex. It doesn't
Mm.
change the love you have. It just
Like
it,
the idea that just because one person doesn't meet or doesn't fulfill every single need there doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with those needs coming from other people. And it doesn't
thank you.
devalue the person
Th-
in the first place.
th- Thank you, Andy. God damn it. Like that's the most realistic way of looking at something ever. And I look at it that way as well. Do you know are you on Twitch or any sort of bullshit social media stuff that people do? I
Uh, Twitch, no. I play my own games, thank you.
okay. So the last person I talked to was Waba Streams, and he is a again, I can't remember the words, but it's by polyamor. Like I'm
Mm.
sorry, this is my thing is, and I come off as offensive because I can't remember the words. It's not that I don't care; it's that I can't
Mm.
remember the actual words. And
Yeah, I know.
he's from New York, and we've hit it off great, had great conversations. So once a week, you will get an email, and you can easily unsubscribe to this. But after this, you'll get an email every single Friday. Anyone that has been on this show before is welcome to get together and shoot the shit in a non-recorded call, and we just talk for one
Mm.
hour every Friday. That's it. And I wanted to provide a space where people could actually be free to be themselves without the risk of like, oh, did I say this wrong? Or did I, all this. And it's actually become kind of fun. We call it ADHD with benefits. It's but but yeah, so you'll get an email. It's no pressure whatsoever at all. If you want to, great. If you don't, totally good too. But that's my thing is I think friendship is the end of the day, it's kind of, in my opinion, the reason that people either make it or they don't when they have mental health. And the reason I say that is because friendship, if you're romantically involved with someone, you're also friends with them.
Mm.
If you're just friends with someone, you're just friends with someone. What are the two common names in those two things? Friends with romance, friends without. Friends. Friends is the key term there.
I guess probably going back to my old best mate,
Right.
because like obviously sometimes things don't like work out even if you do
Right.
try hard at them.
Absolutely.
And it's like for the time of my life that I was around him, it was valuable. Um, but it did get to a point where he needed more than like I could give him, more than
Right.
honestly more than a lot of people could give him, really.
Right.
Um, and it's like that was a difficult one because
Yeah.
you
That
know the
and that
stuff that
sucks because I think that at the end of the day, if someone can't give you everything, which you even said, like no one can give someone everything. You got to
mm,
pick and choose these things, but it doesn't mean that you can't still be friends. And I know that's cliche to say, but like if we can't get past this point of being like, I really fucking dig you as a person, and that's it. That's all I need
mm,
is to
yeah,
think you're cool. That's it. That's all I need
mm,
to hang out and to care about you. If we can't get to that point, then what are we doing?
yeah. I mean, I
I,
think one of the biggest things that like um because obviously I knew him for about 10 years,
right,
and there were very much like peaks and troughs in terms of his
Right.
mental health, his general health. And a lot of it was so easy to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because, and little bit of context, without like identifying
No.
material.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But his mother and his father split up. His mother was a social worker who basically had all of her affection for the people she worked with and none for her children.
Yeah, that could be a
And
problem.
his dad on the
Yeah.
his dad on the other hand was very much a you need to be like at the top of your game for me to be like appreciate
No,
you.
wrong.
Appreciate's the wrong word, but one of
Care.
the first things
Yeah.
one of the most like specific things I remember is one day he said, because he'd been going to the gym a lot, for reference, his brother was a up and coming MMA fighter. So he was
God,
in
all of y'all are
amazing
into martial
shape.
arts over there. Like
Yeah, his brother was in fantastic shape.
right.
And he tried really hard, and at the point where he'd cut off the alcohol, he was going clean, like dieting, weightlift, being at the gym
Right.
5-6 times a week. Got into pretty much one of the best shapes of his life.
Right.
And like he was showing off to his dad, like with his brother.
Oh God.
And his dad said, "I'm proud of you." And he was like, that made my entire month. And it was the fact that it was so rare for that to happen
Yeah.
that it became such a significant thing for him.
That he just latched on to that.
Yeah,
Maybe. Yeah. I don't.
like it was a case of there were a lot of like compounding issues. Like even if I take this a little impersonally and look at just the case study, for example, like you've got the family factors, the society, because he's half Indian.
Right.
He occasionally used to get called Mayo, which is basically a glorified white person.
Yeah. That's trust me. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like he had he was very he had a very addictive personality, and he got addicted to things very quickly, like people, drugs, alcohol,
Yeah.
learning about things. Like I said, he never did anything by half measures, and that included the people he was with, and like a lot of the drugs he did as well.
That's
And it was a case of in the points where he was in his most like stable and his like best condition,
right.
he was still what some would call a little too much for people, in that his kind of energy was very much relentless.
Jesus, I've been told that so many times.
Yeah, but at the difference between his most stable and his worst point could probably be about the space of a month or so. And how long he spent in that time really depended on what happened around him. Like when he moved out of his mother's, and stayed with his dad, like that paradoxically was a good thing, because his dad wasn't home a lot. He was doing all the cooking. He was like having people round.
Right.
We watched Game of Thrones one time, and we watched the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones all in one weekend. Somewhere around his girlfriend, one of his girlfriends at the time was there. And somewhere around the region of season 2, he was getting a blowjob about 6 feet from me, and I didn't notice because we were too invested in watching Game of Thrones.
Well,
we took 2 breaks for that entire weekend. Like we didn't really sleep. We maybe like napped for an hour before going on to the next episode. The first was to bring the Chinese in because we'd ordered about a couple of days worth, and it took a while. The second was to take his metal replica of Master Sword from Zelda and a antique rapier he had, and have a live bladed, very drunk sword fight
Oh God.
in the public part of the driveway. It was declared a draw after we both broke the swords.
Okay, so going back to the the BJ next to you while you're watching Game of Thrones.
I had no idea until about a month later when he told me.
Yeah, so that's me with sports. Like if someone was next to me do that and I'm watching a game that I care about, I would never have known.
Yeah.
Like absolutely never. So we're not all that different as a human race at all. It's just how we condemn people is, to me, it's unacceptable. Like it's unacceptable not to try and find the good in people. And yes, you're not going to get along with everyone, but fucking A, you can at least goddamn try your damnedest to find something about them that you can resonate with. And if you don't, then of course you're not going to like them. Why not spend the time on what they do well? Fuck. Like, I just, anyways, that's me. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Welcome back, everyone. I literally clicked the button that was computer audio only, which is why you couldn't. So I'm hoping you remember your thought. If you don't, it's fine.
Yeah,
No. It was, jeez. Yeah, it's basically, I don't understand why we go after people like we do. That was my thing, was like, why are we trouncing people with mental health issues, whether they're gay or straight or whatever? Like what does it matter? Like why are you doing this? Like it doesn't make sense to me.
I mean that's where my thought came from, is that, like, obviously, especially over most of the friends I made were while I was at uni for the last kind of 5.5 years now.
Yeah.
And that's where I met. And for context, I was in a big house with 9 other people.
Right.
And I was the only cis person there.
Right.
And obviously, like, most of us got along really well. Like we had the odd issue, but those were more like, these are people who have never lived away from home before.
Oh, it's a roommate issue. It's not like
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter if they're like questioning their sexuality at any point. The problem was that they blocked the washing machine.
It's a roommate thing. It's not a sex thing. Like it's not a. It's the fact that pick up your fucking towel off the floor instead.
Or one of my favorites, which admittedly was a almost horrible situation, was the place we lived at 3 floors. The girl on the top floor, she was terrified of the dark, so she'd always leave the hallway light on. And basically, because she'd forget to switch the lower lights off as she was going up the stairs.
No.
One of the other housemates got really annoyed that the lights kept being on, so obviously did the most adult thing a 19-year-old could think of, which was to take the lights. Literally took them out the sockets.
Oh God.
And
I can't say I wasn't that 19-year-old. I can't say that.
Yeah, the next time she went to go downstairs. Didn't realize the lights weren't there, so while trying to figure out what was going on, ended up falling down a flight of stairs. And it's like, she was fine, like didn't hurt too much, because it was the shorter flight of stairs. But it was the fact that
it's the concept of it, like
the fact that someone did something so stupid, and literally there were only about 4 of us in the house at the time, so it was, you can't really put the blame on anyone else,
right?
Especially when someone else saw you out the window putting the lights in the garage.
Oh my God! Speaking of roommates, I had about 5. And so there was one night, this girl I met at the bar and I were hooking up, and they decided to place a ladder at the window. So they're like peering in and all this kind of shit. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, I stopped and I'm like, I'll be right back. I'm very sorry to interrupt this moment, but I'll be right back. I walk outside. I'm like, what the fuck, guys? Shit. I don't do this to you. Like, but that's roommates, I think, at the end of
Yeah.
it. But no, I'm gonna go with my number one premise on this is I do believe that when we take a chance at getting to know someone else, that creates a friendship. It might not, but odds are it does. If you can harp and zoom in on what they do well and how what they do well resonates with you. And I haven't met a single person in doing this for 3 years that is not a friend now. Up is flying over to United States in 3 days to see me again for the second time in 3 months, probably. We have RJ from Virginia, Leo from Ohio, Kirk from California. Like, honestly, to me, it's really important to get to know the person as a person, because if you don't know someone for who they are, then you can't understand what they're going through. And no amount of science in the world can tell me that, like, you've got to get to know the patient before you can diagnose shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I mean, in my opinion, like,
no, that's that's sort of where I was getting to, really, is that
yeah,
obviously I spent a lot of time around like other LGBT people.
right,
I've generally been pretty lucky in that not having many friends, like when I was growing up, mean that I didn't really have too many people around to
right,
like question the kind of like what they go through and stuff.
yeah,
But one thing that I consistently got was just how like angry I'd get at all the like experiences they've had, like the kind of stuff that they've had to go through, not just with like random people, but also with their family as well. Like the amount of people
I
who
agree. I agree.
have it, like obviously when they were like when we were living at uni, it was a case of okay, they're away from like their family, and they're a lot happier. And then obviously during the summertime, it was a case of either I've got to get a job, save up enough, make sure that I've got the right like rent agreement, or I'm
Right.
gonna have to go home and just kind of tough it out for a couple of months and then come back a lot worse than I left, you know?
Yeah. I
And that was the biggest thing that like all of these people that I knew, like I knew that they were like most of them were pretty great people. And it was a case of for no like regardless of their how they act or like their own like personal like shortcomings, strengths, so on and so forth.
right.
Like they all had these experiences.
Yeah.
Um and it's the kind of thing that one, it meant that I spent an awful lot of time sitting down with people and actually trying to talk through the fact that just because these people around them don't appreciate them or don't actually like see them how they see themselves doesn't mean that they're not like that they have to stay in that kind of like orbit, for example.
Yeah.
Um,
The orbit of negativity.
so, yeah, like
Yeah.
I like
God, I agree with that.
one of my old friends, she literally like watching over the last and okay, this I guess watching is a weird term, but like seeing how she like grew and kind of got more confident and stuff, and like learning new things, getting through things. It was just a case of like the fact that I had any small part in it makes me feel like just so much better about it.
Seems like another one of
Like,
those characteristics you might want to be proud of at the end of the day, because
yeah, I mean,
that's
honestly,
leadership. It's
my
leadership.
biggest,
That's what it is.
hmm,
That
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say leadership. I'd say I'd say just like being able to like facilitate that. Like, I'm not doing much of the work.
it's caring.
They're doing a lot of the work.
It's
More like
caring.
teaching almost, because at the same time, I did specifically get this person from never being on a climbing wall before, apart from like school trips, to second finalist in our university competition. Um, which
Fucking
admittedly
awesome.
I was
That's
it it's still one of my
seriously.
it's still one of my crowning achievements. Not only because she was scared of heights, but also like the fact that if you have been rock climbing or
Oh
bouldering
my
or
God,
anything like that,
yes. I used to teach it in Colorado in the
yeah,
summers. Yeah, it was
yeah, like
fun.
I was like on the climbing team for 5 years, and I was climbing captain for the 3 years that we had the
Fuck yeah.
like our actual competitions.
Right.
And obviously, one of the biggest things in climbing is committing to the move.
Oh yeah. Oh
Like,
Jesus Christ.
if you
Yes.
don't if you don't commit, if you don't throw yourself knowing that you could come off, or on the reverse, have so much confidence that you can guarantee you can do that move without failing it, that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Like, I literally made go up and down the same route, being like, okay, where's the same move that you've got right? Where are the moves where you got something wrong because you didn't put enough into it?
Right.
Um, like, being absurdly flexible made it really helpful for her, because I'd point out a
Great.
hold, and
So
you
great.
step to about the hold above that, and then push off that, and it's like the amount of force needed to generate lift off that kind of, it was almost like, if you think their leg, like hips, the center of gravity is here,
Right.
the foot is probably about here somewhere, and then the kind of pivot to actually push off that, like
Yeah.
the strength that takes is incredible. And it made it a really easy thing to teach, but also just the confidence to actually do those climbs in the first place,
Yeah.
and know that you're going to do this because you've seen someone else do it, and they're not half as flexible as you are, you know.
That's what you did for her is amazing, because I want to go back to one thing you said there is when you're cocky or too confident, that doesn't work either. But
Mm,
there's got to be this balance. Balance is a four-letter word to me. And my thing is, I need people that can bring me back down and they can build me back up when I'm brought down.
mm,
Logic, which leads me back to, I need people that genuinely care about me, that I care about also, to help me with my strengths and my weaknesses. If we all do this for each other, this th- this doesn't have to be fucking rocket science. Like, it just has to be
yeah,
literally like, hey, take a step up. Look at this hold. Look at this hold. The amount of strength it takes to get from this to this, you can explain why, but you were there coaching her.
mm,
That's leadership also. We're all leaders and we're all followers. That's it. Like, you lead in the things you're good at, you follow in the things you need to learn.
yeah,
And that's again, one day I need to go back to class. But in my opinion, it's that simple.
mm.
Care.
Yeah, I think the honestly the one of the reasons I even went for my like continued into my masters in the first place was and like, well, looking specifically at the idea of like clinical, like kind of therapy and counseling
Yeah.
and stuff, was the fact that I'd literally done it for the last like 3 years that I'd known it, and it's
Right.
like, if I can make this much of a difference to someone I love, then like I can at least make a small difference to a bunch to people that I can understand as well.
Preach, Andy. Preach. Fucking A. Dude, this has been amazing.